Welcome to another evening of frank conversation here on Hard Copy, coming to you from our studios in Abuja. I'm Maupe Ogun Yusuf. Nigeria is marking her 25th year of unbroken democratic rule, a significant achievement when you consider that she's been independent for 64 years. A considerable number of those years have been spent in autocratic military rulership, while the debate rages on how the country has fared in the Fourth Republic and whether she needs to look more inward to develop a model of democracy that produces better outcomes. A non-negotiable of any democracy is a fundamental entrenchment of human rights and the rule of law, an index Nigeria hasn't fared so greatly on. On globaleconomy.com, a website that provides business and economic data for over 200 countries, Nigeria scores 8.4 out of a possible 10, where 10 is the worst and 0 the best in its rule of law and human rights index. For comparison, the world average is 5.7. Also, the Human Rights Measurement Initiative, which ranks countries according to UN treaties which they are signed up to, rates Nigeria as very poor and worse than the average in sub-Saharan Africa. A significant part of why Nigeria fares so poorly on these indices stems from the relationship citizens have with the police. All too often, stories have been told of police brutality, extrajudicial killings, enforced disappearances, extortion, and all manner of crimes which should never be heard about from a law enforcement agency. All of these complaints once culminated in a protest against police brutality, which was tagged EndSARS in 2020. Sadly, the protest didn't end well and civilians were shot at by armed security officers. That, however, is not the focus of this conversation tonight. What many do not know is that as far back as 2015, the police had set up a complaints response unit within the police, which was supposed to take complaints from the public and even officers of the force itself against the bad behavior of primary law enforcers of the land. In the aftermath of the protests, there have been efforts to give new life to this vital organ of the police force, with the current Inspector General of Police, Kayode Egbetokun, ordering the establishment of this unit in all states of the Federation and the FCT. But questions remain as to how effective it can be, given how very little trust remains between the police and the public it should serve, and how rife complaints continue to be against the police. On Hard Copy tonight, I speak with the head of the Complaints Response Unit, Chief Superintendent of Police El Mustafa Sani, on the tasks before the Complaints Response Unit. CSP Sani, welcome to Hard Copy.
Thank you for having me.
Well, I must say that you're the first serving police officer whom I'm interviewing who is not in uniform. Is there a reason for that?
Yeah, just as you've highlighted, I'm the head of Complaint Response Unit of the Nigerian Police Force, and it's meant to be an office whereby members of the public can come comfortably, conveniently, and lay complaint against police officers. Therefore, wearing the uniform will feel as if they may not have that free access to these police officers. They don't have free mind. They may have obstacle with the uniform. You know, naturally, people don't like to see the black uniform of the Nigerian Police Force, and therefore, that's the reason why the officers in this office, not only me, all the officers are always in mufti. And the other way too, the officers that you may invite who have complaint against, or whom the complaint is against, if you invite them, those officers may come with the uniform, and if we are in uniform, you know, because of the regimentation of the Nigerian Police Force, those officers may be of a senior rank to the officer in the CRU who is investigating him. Therefore, intimidation may come in, and that's the reason why our officers are always neutral, wearing mufti to serve both the police and the members of the public to get justice.
It's interesting that, you're also serving police officers as well as the general public.
Yes.
How big is the complaints that come from police officers themselves?
They're so big. We have numerous complaints from police officers. You know, in organization where we have 300,000, about 300,000, where you have a lot of stages of regimentation from senior officers, middle officers, and junior officers. definitely there may be one or two things that may come in. Complaints that we normally receive from members of the police are either intimidation by senior police officers. The female of police officers also brings about complaint by intimidation, harassment, sexual harassment by some senior police officers. These are complaints like family issues, welfare issues, whereby a police officer may complain that his salary is not being paid for him for some times, and also welfare that revolves around places of work, whereby police officers, by their superior officers, immediate superior officers, are prevented from going for annual leave to see their families, casual leave to see their family because of the junk of the work, despite the fact that the Inspector General of Police or the police public service rules directed every officer to go on annual leave once in a year and have 7 days as part of his casual leave spread across the year. So some officers, because of naturally they will tell you lack of manpower, that they are in shortage of manpower, police officers do a particular duty, they prevent these officers from going there, which is very bad. Therefore, officers do complain on that. And these are some of the complaints we receive from police officers themselves against their superior officers or direct supervisors.
Well, the tasks before you are quite uphill when we consider just where we're coming from in terms of the complaint of the general public against the police itself and the light in which the public, oftentimes view the police. I mean, you yourself have admitted that one of the reasons why your officers are not dressed in uniform is so that the public can feel free to approach the police, and that the public do not like to see the black uniform or, like I said, the blue uniform of the police. And when you look at the fact that we're coming from a recent history of a major protest against police brutality, how much of a task do you think that the CRU has on its hands?
You see, let me start by just briefing you on how the CRU works. Perhaps that may help in giving our viewers more perspective about this CRU. The police, before the establishment of CRU in 2015, have other internal mechanism of checkmating the excesses of their officers. And we have the Provost Office, the Ex-Court, the IG monitoring team, who are domiciled in most all the commands of the Federation, the 36 states plus Abuja. But the difference between them and the CRU is that the CRU is where there is no police station. I mean, complaining against police officer without necessarily visiting the police stations. We use social media, we bring innovations. The Nigerian police brought innovation so that members of the public on the road where they were being molested by police officers or being money is being collected from them, from police officers, can easily report directly through our email addresses, through our WhatsApp addresses, through our call and other social media, X and the rest, to report their cases to the Nigerian police force. The reason behind this is members of the public initially, with all these other internal establishment I've told you about, are unable to access them because either they are in a confine of police building whereby there are police officers guarding the place. If you are reporting a particular police officer, maybe the person on the guard at the gate to that place to give you access is a friend to that police officer, and naturally they will ask you, what are you doing here? Where are you going to? What is your mission? And they would, through that, they can discourage you, or they can even threaten you to leave that place so that you will not report their colleagues or their friend. Therefore, the platform brought up about people from their homes can easily report. Back to your question, your question of us having so much complaint. Definitely, you must have so much complaint from members of the public. Some of them, even though some of them are fake complaints just because they detest a police officer in the area, definitely, if you fight corruption, corruption will fight you. Some members of the public may report a vicious complaint that's a fake one against a police officer just because maybe the police officer is standing on his right to ensure that justice is made.
I mean, it's interesting the fact that this CRU was established in 2015. You have talked about how all the other internal mechanisms that you used to have, which do not seem to have been as effective as they ought to be. That's why the CRU was established. And I think the police might have, identified the pitfalls in that. The fact that these places to complain were inside police establishments. Are you saying that the CRU now is outside of police establishments? Is that what's happening?
For now, we are not yet outside the police establishment, but...
is that the goal?
That's the goal. That's the goal, for us to have a neutral place whereby members of the public can lay their complaints. And, one thing about the CRU is members of the public may not complain directly to the police. We have our external stakeholders that we receive complaints from. Such as National Human Rights Commission, such as the media. We have so many officers that monitor some of the programs, like the Berkete Family, the Human Rights Radio in Abuja, and there is this Pit to Fall program in the Nigerian Army FM radio. These are programs that members of the public may go to express one or two grievances they have against the police. We have liaison officers, or we have established contact with these places, whereby if they have such complaint, they'll bring them directly to the office for us to investigate those complaints. And it's been helping members of the public. We receive a lot of complaints from there. So for now, despite the fact that we don't have an office out of police building, we still have channels whereby members of the public can lay their complaint, and those complaints are referred back to us. Our senior police officers, the Inspector General of Police and the First Public Relation Officer, normally intervene in such programs. They call him live, and he will direct them where to report those issues of misconduct, police misconduct. And naturally, we have these offices where he can refer them to, and we do our investigation to ensure justice is made. When
I asked you what you were up against, I was referring to the fact that this CRU had been established as of 2015,
yes,
5 years before the NSAS protests, and it would seem that in spite of the fact that the CRU was in existence then, there was still an NSAS protest. Why do you think that happened?
You see, the CRU initially was the establishment of the police regulation. And any Inspector General of Police can change it, can change the course of its activities, can change the course of its work. But in 2020, after the NSAS, it's been codified in the Police Act and Regulation 2020 in the Police Act, and therefore no Inspector General of Police, no any authority can tamper with the activities of this, the law establishing this CRU, unless it passes through the normal legislative procedures. And
so it's now a law. The CRU is now law.
It's now a law. Every Inspector General of Police that comes on board must go with the CRU. That's just on board. And therefore, I may be thinking the correction, the reason why this codification came about is because of the outcome of what happened during NSAS. And that notwithstanding, during the NSAS, there is a lot of reports. If you see part of our report from CRU, annual report, because we do annual report, in our annual report, we have specification of variables that we checked in our reports. Where do we receive most of our complaints? From which area do we receive most of our complaints? And all these things, I mean, the NSAS, the story of NSAS were virtually pictured in our complaint. All the places where there was so much issues about NSAS, these areas are the red area in the CRU chart of complaints that we received.
But it wasn't picked up.
It wasn't picked up. The report was, we wrote the report, and one way or the other, there is a Nigerian factor. The report was not given the utmost attention is needed at that particular time until this thing happened. But I've told you that the codification of the Police Act regulation, the CRU in the Police Act regulation has really helped. Nigerian factor. Every person comes with his form and formula and his own vision, and therefore he may not buy the vision of the previous administration. It was established in 2015, and before 2020, before the NSAS, I think we had 2 Inspector General of Police, and therefore they may not key in into what's happening in 2015 and the reason why the Inspector General of Police in 2015 established that. But now, with it being codified into Police Act and Regulation 2020, I think everybody must key in because now it's a law.
It does appear to me that you have a Herculean task before you, because not only are you serving the general public, a public which currently lacks trust of its own police officers, but you also have to serve an internal public, which is the police officers themselves. I'm just wondering, would you say that there is sufficient will within the police? Because a lot of people have been seeking police reforms, and they think that, unless something is done in terms of really taking care of the police, all of the things that we're trying to do with the police would really just be blaming the weather for our luck. Let me put it this way. If you do not remunerate, for instance, a police officer very well, you do not give him the tools to work, you do not give him the right environment to function in, a lot of, and it's no excuse really, but these are the realities of many police officers.
Yeah.
Do you find yourself in a really tight situation whenever it is that you have to carry out your job as CRU officers?
Yeah, to be sincere with you, yes. We used to have those feelings. We are police officers ourselves. Mm-hmm. I was in the Nigerian police force before President Yar'Adua became the president of Nigeria. The reason why I'm bringing him back is there is this beautiful thing that happened during his own time. There was an increase in the police salary at that particular time during Yar'Adua. Before Yar'Adua time, the salary was nothing to write home about. If I may be precise, I was an assistant superintendent of police before Yar'Adua, and my salary was just 36,000 naira. At that 36,000 naira within that range. But when Yar'Adua came and improved the salary of police officers, my salary became 120,000. Just see the difference between 36 and 120. That's a very big gap that closes. And at that particular time, because the remuneration of the police officer is equivalent to the inflationary rates in the country at that particular time. The police officers were comfortable at that particular time. And as such, all these biases dropped significantly. Police officers, I was on a patrol one of these days, a motorist, tried to give a police officer, a corporal, I think, at that time, while I was working, some tips as he was passing. The officer said, "Do you think I'm poor again? I'm not poor." These are the things, the reaction of officers at that particular time. But the salary has never been reviewed, just as you've observed, the salary has not ever been reviewed.
The salaries of police officers are not reviewed alongside the minimum wage?
No, I think we have a consolidated salary scheme that since that time, the salary has not been reviewed, and the inflationary rate in Nigeria has been increasing, while the salary has been, the value of the salary has been depreciating. Then it's not for us to use that to give the police a cover to do whatever they are doing, because all members of the public, the ministries, people working in the ministries, private sectors, all face these challenges. Mm-hmm. And therefore, we will not accept the fact that the police officers are the only ones being affected. But the problem is that the police officers are the ones that have a different mode of activities as part of their work. A police officer from Abuja will be posted where his family are in Abuja. He may just wake up and go to the office, and a special duty roster will be drawn, and you'll be posted to a place where there is crisis. Maybe he will be posted to northeast, south-south, southeast, or any other part of the country, leaving his family behind, and the disruption. And if he goes there, there is no extra
special allowances, yeah.
Yeah, there is no special allowances that this person will rely on. He must definitely rely On his...
There are no special allowances.
There are no special allowances for those. Only on few occasions that these special allowances are announced, and sometimes the police officers don't even get these special allowances. We've received so many complaints whereby an officer will spend 6 months without receiving his special allowances in some certain circumstances, and we've seen so many press releases whereby the Inspector General of Police has come out to warn that these officers must be paid their allowances, and some of these allowances is not the work of the police, it's the work of the government that's recruited, not requested for the police to be there. The government's supposed to have given a special package for those police officers to make their work easier and for them to adapt to the environment quicker. But sometimes those things are very difficult to come by.
So when you look at the fact that, you have officers who sometimes are ready to do the work but do not have sufficient motivation or, are not exactly... have not been equipped, let me put it that way, to do what it is that they need to do. Do you find yourself in a bind as CRU officers?
You see, there are lots of police officers who made a lot of sacrifices. The number of police officers that are doing the right thing are far, far more than the number of officers who are deviant in the Nigerian police force. But the problem is that they are always pain. They are always having that pain that is only the story of the bad ones that is going out in the Nigerian police force, while the good stories that they've been exhibiting as members of the Nigerian police force is been overshadowed by the activities of those few elements in the Nigerian police force that are causing this. And therefore, this really discourages them, and to put more in some aspects. And sometimes when they come out to face the members of the public, and if they hear the insults being meted on the police, they will just feel bad that despite all the effort that I've been putting, this is what members of the public will perceive me to be because of one thing or the other that my other colleagues did. So there are this particular set of people, police officers, the majority of them that always want these people to be punished. Sometimes they come up to CRU to assist us with information, to assist us with video clips, to assist us. In fact, some of these police officers refer members of the public to the CRU. That's how beautiful this thing is. The police officers, the good police officers who are the majority, if a member of the public complain to them, say, please call this number or call CRU, but please don't tell the police officer that I am the person that gave you this contact of the CRU. And this thing is working to ameliorate those problems. And as you said, the number of complaints we receive actually are increasing. And
in spite of the fact that your numbers are really long, because some people have said, look, you should have short codes.
Yeah, having short codes, has to do with the government and so many authorization and government organization to put their heads together to give us those numbers. We try as much as possible to get numbers that are easy for persons to memorize, and also offhand they can easily bring the numbers.
Considering just how badly we're faring on the human rights, on the various human rights index, it doesn't matter which body is measuring, and a significant part of the human rights complaints usually comes from the police and the behavior of the police. And you heading the CRU, even though I see you came highly recommended, I was looking at the statement which the first PRO released. He says that you have extensive background in complaints resolution in the PCB, that's the Public Complaints Bureau of the Force Public Relations Department, coupled with your dedication to justice and fairness. So it does appear that you come highly recommended. But looking at the enormity of the task before you, and where how we're faring on the various human rights index, how let's say prepared, do you feel daunted sometimes? Do you feel overwhelmed when you hear the deluge of complaints against the Nigerian police and the image it still has out there with the police force?
As a human being, as a father, as a Nigerian, I really feel so bad whenever I see those complaints from members of the public against my colleagues, against my institutions, and therefore that gives us more motivation to ensure that those members of the public we put smiles into their face, and those corrupt police officers are punished. That's why sometimes we ordinarily get clips on social media, analyze the clip, and identify the officers, arrest them, and start without necessarily meeting with the complainants. And this is how passionate we are on that aspect, because we know that when you have over 300,000 people you are superintending over on these issues, definitely there will be time that you have your hands full with so many cases. We used to have training, best practice training in human rights, complaint response techniques, investigative techniques from both internal and external organizations. Presently, we have the support, just as you've seen, of you've read of the first public relation officer, who is the direct supervisor of the office I am heading. Through him and the PSO to the Inspector General of Police, they are all ready to assist in any way to ensure that all our problems in this section has been solved, so that members of the public will see, will smile and have a better services from the Nigerian police force.
Well, we'll certainly keep up with you. We hope that when your annual report comes out, we are able to see, just what progress is being made, especially now that the IGP has ordered that the office be opened in every state command of the Federation. Well, we have to thank you for honoring our invitation on Hard Copy this evening.
Thank you for having me.
Well, that's the program tonight, but in case you want to lodge a complaint with the Complaint Response Unit of the Nigeria Police, please use the following numbers showing on your screen. And if you want to give us some feedback on the program tonight, please email us using hardcopy@channelstv.com. Thank you for watching. I'm Maupe Ogun Yusuf. Good night.